has to stay focused on that one worm in that grass. So part of its brain is going, worm, worm, worm. Don't let go of that. If we're walking down the street with a toddler, it's hold their hand, hold their hand, hold their hand.
Totally.
Yes, but if a bird flew straight down to the grass, it's the ground is a dangerous place. Danger is everywhere. And the reason the bird tilts its head is because its right hemisphere has a different job to do, and that is to stay wide open for any sort of danger which might come from any direction. And so every living creature has these two separate jobs to do to get breakfast and not to be someone else's breakfast. And so our brain divided because those are such different tasks. One of them is focused and one of them is wide spectrum, receptive and open. And you can't have that in the same system. And so as humans, we have two ways of being in the world. One is I have a goal. Someone's goal is, make money or be in charge of everybody else, and they have a single goal. And we've seen how ugly that is in practice. But we have another part of our mind that is receptive, and it is soft, and it is taking in the whole picture, the whole ecosystem. And it's relational. It's the thing that says, if I'm going to be with you, I have to stop being focused and I have to listen to what you think. I have to, so a child knows when their mum or dad loves them because mum or dad puts aside everything else, sits back and says, I really want to hear how you're doing. And the child senses mum's gone into her right hemisphere. She's here, she's in her body, she's with me. And so now we shift between right and left hemisphere all the time. But because the left had to be focused, its job was to exclude everything else and not notice anything else. Whereas the right, its job was to sit with, okay, it receives all the sensory input. If you're at a party and someone mentions your name from across the room in another conversation, you suddenly hear that coming out. I have a friend who has ADHD, a young woman who helped a lot with the writing of the book. And she said in a restaurant, she follows 5 conversations at once because it's too boring to just listen to the one. She said to me, she said, Steve, here's a compliment. She said, I've listened to you for the last 5 minutes. I have never listened to anyone for 5 minutes in my life.
I love it.
Yeah, and so our right brain is wide, doing this big take on everything around. We might know that we feel unsafe, but we haven't got the first idea why, but our right brain does. And so, yes, and so that's the wiring. If you picture, one is like a little chatty part in living in a little garret up in the top corner. And that's why when we're anxious, it's so unhelpful because up there it just goes round and round and round in circles. Everyone's had this experience lying awake in the middle of the night with the thoughts going round and round, getting nowhere at all. But if we go into our body and we go and listen to what's happening, it actually can help us out of the anxiety and help us get back to feeling at peace again. And we can talk later about how you do that as a technique.
Steve, it's so interesting as you were speaking about that right brain or our wild creature mind. I feel like the very, very first time I ever fell deeply in love with my husband was probably, we've been dating for a few weeks, but we went to a restaurant and I was telling him a story about a trauma that had happened in my world. And he was so deeply engaged with what I was saying. And it was in that moment, I think, that my wild creature mind said, this is a safe person. This is somebody that I want to be with.
He's the guy.
He's the guy. He's the one.
Oh, isn't that fantastic? That's so lovely. Yes, if you find a person who gives you their full, that's what love is. Love is someone who gives you their full attention.
Yeah.
And is willing to do. Yeah. Oh, that's really. Yeah.
Okay, so Steve, I think the big question from everybody is, I think for a lot of people, it feels like we can't hear our wild creature mind anymore. And the question following that is, how do we start to do this again?
Yes. Okay. Now, again, this is a very simple tool, which when I explain it to you, I make a fair guess that everyone watching will use it for the rest of their life. Every day for what I'm about to tell you, you will use for the rest of your life. It's so helpful. And I don't know if people in Canada are the same here, that sometimes in the old days, people used to use language with a lot more precision. And so if you've ever read books like Jane Austen or books like that, part of the beauty of them is the incredible precision of the language. And people in those days used to use terms like, they'd say things like, there is something in me, Meredith, that yearns for the sea. Or there is something in me that wants to give him a good smack in the mouth. Probably that wouldn't be a Jane Austen example, but that expression, there is something in me, was in the language. And what it conveys is that it's not all of me. It's not all of me that I'm not about to run away to sea. It's just that it's in there. It's in there. And there's more than that, but it's in there. And so when we use the words, in English, the way we talk is we say, I am anxious, or I am angry. And in not every culture is the same. In Ireland, they say there is a sadness on me. In France, they say, I have fear. Whereas in English, they say, I am afraid. Now, if you're watching or listening to this, if you just try it on, I am angry, it feels very total. It's like every inch of me. And so we experience it in the way we frame it. But if you were to say instead, there is something in me which is anxious, then straight away, can you feel that sense of separation that happens? It's like there's a little bit of spaciousness comes in. Oh, there's something in me that is anxious. So it's not, does that,
Yes, totally. You know, and I'm just going to say it for seconds. When you say there's something in me that's anxious, to me, as I say, it evokes a curiosity. It's like there's something here.
And you gestured to here. And so that automatically falls into the next step of the procedure. So I'll use myself as an example. Before I got into these ideas, I was a naturally anxious person. I'm neurodivergent, and so I have to work very hard to be social and do it with a lot of concentration.